Every fortune leaves evidence. The man who invented the 20th century died alone in a hotel room, owing money, feeding pigeons, and talking to no one. His electricity runs through every wall on Earth. Your lights, your phone charger, this video, all of it, his. He once held a contract that would have made him the richest human being who ever lived. He gave it up for almost nothing. Before this file is over, you will watch government agents seize his papers before his body was even buried. You will watch his 100-foot tower, his life's last dream, dynamited for scrap to cover a hotel bill. And you will learn why the highest court in America handed him back the invention of radio 5 months after he died. His name was Nikola Tesla, and his story is the most expensive lesson in the difference between genius and wealth. Money Autopsy, File 5, the inventor who lit the world and died in the dark. The family story says Nikola Tesla was born at midnight in the middle of a lightning storm in a small Serbian village. The midwife called it an omen. She said he would be a child of the storm. In 1884, he stepped off a ship in New York with 4 cents in his pocket, by his own account, and a letter of introduction to the most famous inventor alive, Thomas Edison. Edison's empire ran on direct current, a system so limited it needed a power plant every mile. Tesla saw a better way: alternating current, power that could travel hundreds of miles on a single line. As Tesla told it, Edison promised him $50,000 to redesign his generators. Tesla did it in months. When he asked for the money, Edison reportedly laughed. "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Tesla quit. Within a year, the man who would light the planet was digging ditches for $2 a day. Then, in 1888, the industrialist George Westinghouse bought Tesla's alternating current patents. $60,000 in cash and stock, and 1 golden clause. A royalty of $2.50 for every single horsepower of electricity his system ever produced. Hold that clause in your mind. Electricity was about to become the operating system of civilization. $2.50 per horsepower, forever, on all of it. That is not a contract. That is a claim on the 20th century itself. Edison did not surrender his empire quietly. He launched one of the dirtiest smear campaigns in business history. His allies electrocuted animals in public to convince crowds that alternating current was a killer. They even engineered the first electric chair to run on Tesla's current, hoping the association would stick. It did not work. In 1893, Tesla and Westinghouse lit the Chicago World's Fair with 100,000 bulbs, and the whole world saw the future. Then they harnessed Niagara Falls. The war was over. Alternating current had won. But while Tesla was winning the war, Westinghouse was losing the bank. The price war with Edison had drained him. His lenders moved in with one condition: get rid of the royalty contract. Westinghouse came to Tesla with the truth: if the royalty stands, I lose the company, and you can try collecting from the bankers. Tesla was alone in that negotiation. No lawyer fighting for him, no advisor telling him what the clause would one day be worth. You may have heard what happened next. The famous scene: Tesla theatrically tearing the contract to pieces to save his friend. Here's the truth. Historians say that scene is mostly legend. There was no dramatic tearing. There was something quieter and worse. Tesla released the royalties, and in 1896, Westinghouse bought out his claim, in full and forever, for $216,000. Within decades, electricity consumption made that clause worth hundreds of millions. Some estimates say Tesla would have become the world's first billionaire. He sold the 20th century for the price of a large house. Why would anyone do that? The psychology here is the exact opposite of every file we have opened so far. Jack Whittaker's money amplified greed around him. Tesla's flaw was indifference. He saw himself as an inventor, not an owner. Money was fuel, never the score. Psychologists call it identity-based decision-making. We do not choose what is optimal. We choose what confirms who we believe we are. And a man who believes he is above money will sign anything that lets him get back to the lab. With the Westinghouse money, Tesla chased his greatest dream: wireless power for the whole planet. He convinced J.P. Morgan, the most powerful banker on Earth, to fund a giant transmission tower on Long Island, Wardenclyffe. But while Tesla built his tower, a younger rival named Marconi sent a simple radio signal across the Atlantic, using, Tesla claimed, 17 of his own patents. Morgan asked the only question bankers ask. If anyone can receive the power, where do we put the meter? There was no answer. Morgan cut the money. The tower rusted for years, and in 1917 it was dynamited and sold for scrap, partly to settle Tesla's hotel debts. Here is the myth this story buries. The idea that genius automatically becomes wealth. Invention creates value, but ownership captures it. They are two completely different games, played by two different kinds of people. Edison built companies, Morgan owned the companies, Marconi owned the credit, Tesla owned ideas, and ideas without leverage pay in admiration, not in money. The richest men of his age were not its greatest minds, they were its best owners. That is still true today. Tesla spent his last decades moving between New York hotels, leaving unpaid bills behind like footprints. Westinghouse, the company his patents had saved, quietly paid for his final room. Number 327, on the 33rd floor of the New Yorker Hotel. Every year on his birthday, he summoned reporters and promised impossible machines, death rays, thought cameras. The papers came for the spectacle and left living. His truest companions were the pigeons of Bryant Park. He fed them daily, nursed the injured ones in his room, and loved one white bird, he said, the way a man loves a woman. The bills piled up on the desk of a man who had given away the largest royalty in industrial history. On January the 5th, 1943, Tesla hung a "Do Not Disturb" sign on his door and asked not to be woken. 2 days later, a maid named Alice Monahan ignored the sign. She found him gone, aged 86, alone. Within days, government agents seized every paper, notebook, and instrument he owned, citing wartime security, though Tesla was an American citizen. 2,000 people attended his funeral. Nobel laureates sent tributes. The state he could not pay rent in gave him a cathedral farewell. And then, in June 1943, the United States Supreme Court quietly restored the priority of Tesla's radio patents. The invention the world had handed to Marconi, the one that earned Marconi a Nobel Prize, legally traced back to Tesla. Vindication arrived exactly 5 months after the only man it mattered to had died. 5 files now, and Tesla breaks the pattern in the most instructive way possible. The lottery winner, the athlete, the nation, the bank, they all lost fortunes they held. Tesla never even held his. He signed it away because guarding money felt beneath the work. The lesson is not to love money. It is that value you create but do not own will always end up owned by someone else. If this file earned it, subscribe and leave a comment for the man who lit your room tonight. Next on the table, an entire nation supposedly lost its mind over a flower, the most famous financial bubble in history, except most of what you know about it is a lie. Every fortune leaves evidence.